Hey guys, it's Carla. I'm here again in my kitchen for another episode of That Sounds So Good, which is my book, but is also me doing recipes from my book. The recipe that I am doing today is called Fat Noodles with pan roasted mushrooms and crushed herb sauce. What this is a very quick weeknight pasta where some mushroom pastas can go kind of rich and cheesy and creamy, which is delicious. This one instead has this bright, herby, oily, chili flake, lemony condiment that just takes it in more of a zippy, bright direction. And the whole thing happens start to finish in like half an hour. So let's do it. All right, so I have a tall pot of water coming up to a boil. While I'm waiting for the water to boil, I'm gonna do all the veg prep for my mushrooms and for that crushed herb sauce. One of the things that I love about mushrooms is I just love them, period. I love the way they taste. I love the way they look. I love all of their really cute shapes. They're like little tiny cartoons. A lot of varieties of mushrooms used to be really hard to get, but now a lot of those wild varieties are being cultivated, and it's really easy to find like cute selection. Also very easy to prep this vegetable. So I'm really just gonna take off the tough end of the root. Honestly, for this one, this is called a seafood mushroom. I'm not gonna do anything to them. I think these shapes are gonna wilt and like kind of tangle up with the noodles in a really cute way. So that's that. So same thing here. I'm gonna use my hand just to break this into smaller pieces so I can get to the root. And then just taking off the base. If these stay in little clusters, that's fine because they'll cook and then they'll fall apart when they're getting tossed around in the pan later. All right, these are shiitakes. They just happen to be really cute tiny ones. I'm gonna pull off the stem, which can be tough. And then instead of cutting, I'm just gonna break these into little shaggy pieces. And water is kind of the enemy of mushrooms. Like when mushrooms get old or they get wet, that's when they get kind of wilty and slimy and waterlogged and they're not so nice anymore. So the best way to store them when you get them home is in a brown paper bag. These are beach mushrooms, brown beach, I think they were labeled. I'm just kind of letting them fall apart in these clusters naturally and adding them to the bowl. And then finally I have a nice cluster of maitakes, hen of the woods, another word for them. So same deal, kind of bite-sized. What's for dinner? Fungus. Deal with it. So to go with the mushrooms, very simple, just some garlic and some shallot. You're gonna see garlic two ways in this recipe. So I'm gonna use 5 cloves for cooking with the mushrooms. And then I'm just holding back a 6th clove that is going to go into the crushed herb sauce, and that will be raw. So you'll get kind of the layers of the garlic flavor. So without adding another ingredient, getting a very different flavor out of it. I'm just smashing these. Ooh, really smash that guy. To loosen up the skin and make it easy to remove. If you want more garlic, go for it, add more. So now these are peeled. Just gonna slice them. All right, so now I have my shallot, same deal. I'm just gonna thinly slice this as well. And you don't have to kill yourself going super thin. So that's it for mushroom prep. All right. So now I'm gonna get the oil mixture started for the crushed herb sauce. This starts with 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. And I'm getting this started now, just again, waiting for the pasta water to boil. So into this, 1 garlic clove. You could finely chop it. I just think grating is nice because you don't get any noticeable lumps of garlic. And now the zest of this entire lemon. If for some reason you found yourself like without a lemon and wanted to make this recipe, you could just use a little bit of vinegar and you could leave the zest out of the oil and it would be fine. But I don't feel like lime zest would be the right move. lemon zest going in. And about a teaspoon of chili flake. If you don't want it spicy, leave it out, or you could like step down to just doing black pepper in here for a little heat. Since this is really like being used as a condiment, the spice is concentrated, but it's gonna be in the dish sparingly. I'm just gonna season this with salt and pepper. Lots of pepper, love pepper. I mean, I think this is gonna taste great right now. I have a mix of different tender greens and herbs. If you only have one, fantastic. You do not have to use a medley. So what I wanna do is measure about 2 cups of leaves and the tender part of the stems. Because the herbs are gonna get blanched, a little bit of stem is gonna tenderize and be totally fine. Mint stems, not so much. This is a good job for a child as well. I would save my basil and my parsley stems also for stock. I don't know if I would save the mint stems. Maybe you could just make a little mint infusion with those. That's a cup and that's a cup. That's it for herbs. Cook the herbs, finish the sauce, make the mushrooms, finish the pasta, and then we're done. Okay, I've got boiling water, which I'm going to salt very aggressively. So like growl when you do it. These are gonna go in and boil until they're bright green and like wilted and slightly tender. It's gonna happen very quickly. And this is the same water that I'm going to use for the pasta. I like recipes where you can cook veg in the pot of water and then add your pasta to the same boiling water. So these look very floppy and tender to me. I'm just gonna spoon them out with a mesh spider. The reason I chose to cook the herbs at all for this dish, because really in most pestos, the herbs are raw. It just kind of mellows them out a little bit. It softens them and it gives like kind of more of a rich vegetal flavor. So I'll show you just the way that they smush and tear apart. They're tender. They're not cooked to death. They're gonna still have plenty of texture and flavor. All right, these are my drained herbs. They're nice and cold. And I want to just get out as much water as possible. I don't want to water down my sauce. And like, look, it's nothing now. Just a tiny ball of nothing. I'm gonna just fluff them a tiny bit. And I'm just gonna slice them thinly. And in this bowl, I've got that chili garlic lemon mixture from before. That's just been hanging out this whole time, infusing the oil. And I'm gonna add the herbs. So it's just a concentrated, like flavor-packed, spoonable condiment. I'm gonna give this a little taste. Like so flavor-packed. You get the lemon, the garlic. Now there's this really concentrated, like herby flavor to it, but you can taste everything. I'm going to get my mushrooms started before I drop the pasta. I just want them to have a head start. And I already have this over medium heat. And I'm going to add 6 tablespoons of olive oil. It's important to cook mushrooms in a generous amount of oil because they kind of act like sponges. So they're going to, a little bit like eggplant, they'll just like suck everything up from the pan. So you just have to be generous. At the beginning, I just want to make sure that the mushrooms are coated in oil. So I'll put them in the pan and toss them just to make sure that every mushroom has been touched by an olive oil angel. I can tell that these are nice, fresh mushrooms. Very happy with the selection because it looks juicy down there. There's also like a good amount of shrinkage. So it looked like an enormous pile, and now it looks like just the right amount. All right, so this would be the moment to leave them alone. Make sure they have good heat on them. Let the ones that are in direct contact with the pan pick up some color. Yeah, just like ride the mushroom journey on the mushroom train. Okay, so I can see there's some nice light browning happening on this bottom. Some nice, lovely, golden things are happening to the mushrooms. So at this point, I'm going to season with some kosher salt and pepper. This is a great way to cook mushrooms no matter where they're going to end up. This is just like my basic pan roasting mushroom method. All right, these are looking really lovely. They're going to get a little more time in this pan, but where they are right now is about as great as I could ever have expected. They are lovely and golden brown. There's a little bit of crisping happening. There's no sticking, there's no burning, there's no charring. They were juicy the whole time. So I lowered the heat just a tad, and I'm gonna add butter to this pan. A couple tablespoons. If I had started with butter, the butter surely would have burned. And now I've got my shallot and garlic from earlier. So I really just want to cook this until the garlic is really aromatic. The shallots get a little bit floppy. Season them lightly. Oh my God, it smells so good. Something happened when I added the pepper. Went from good to great. All right, so now mushrooms. Oh, stop. I cannot. So now all that buttery, shalloty, garlicky flavor that was in the pan is getting sucked up by the mushrooms. They are glorious and seasoned and super tasty. So this is this fantastic foundation for the rest of the mushroom sauce. Actually, I'm just gonna turn the heat off on these, slide them to the back. They're gonna stay warm. And now it's pasta time. That pasta water is boiling and it's salted. It's time to put the noodles in. I love this shape. They're called malfadine, sometimes malfada, but it's like a really thin lasagna noodle with a ruffly edge. It says fat noodle to me. Whatever says fat noodle to you is the noodle you should use. While the pasta's cooking, I'm going to grate some parm, which will go into the sauce. The rest of the parm I will hang on to and we'll pass that at the table. All right, that seems good. I'm also going to juice that zested lemon. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for. Pasta gets to go into mushrooms and then cheese gets to go into that with lemon, and it's really what it's all about because this is when dinner is done. I'm gonna go straight from the pot. I mean, is this the cutest shape you've ever seen in your life? I love it so much. I'm also finishing this in the Dutch oven. So I chose the Dutch oven at the beginning on purpose so it was something wide and deep that could hold the mushrooms in a great way, but was also big enough to combine with the pasta at the end. So the noodles at this point have been coated with all the mushroom oil and the butter mixture with the shallot. I've got the heat over low, and I'm gonna pull some pasta water into this pot. So the pasta water is important, or any water is important here to give you something to let the cheese melt into. So the noodles coated with mushrooms is nice. Noodles coated with mushrooms with like a glossy emulsified Parmesan coating is better. So now that there's a good amount of liquid as well in the pan, we can add the parm. So this is looking pretty saucy. The cheese is melted. I'm not gonna add all of this straight off the bat. I'm gonna add about a tablespoon. I don't want it like overly lemony. I just want it bright. So now to finish, right before I serve, I'm gonna put some of the crushed herb sauce into the pasta and then pass the rest at the table. So 2 or 3 little spoonfuls. So these aromas also, the raw garlic, the lemon zest, when they're warm, it's gonna open up all of the flavors in the crushed herb sauce as well. It's time to eat. Pasta nini time. So I have my gorgeous mushroom pasta with my beautiful crushed herb sauce. She's saucy and she's glossy. This shape is really giving me like a full crimped mid-90s look with like earth tones and just some few emerald accents. So then to serve, put a little more parm and just a little extra sauce. So when you twirl up your pasta, you'll get like little bright spots tucked around. There's a little, the babiest mushroom clinging to the side there. But every bite has it all. Greens dragged over. Take me away to Mushroom Mountain. Oh, it's so good. This is one of the first recipes I developed for the book. I haven't made this dish in this entire time. I'm happy to say that the name, Fat Noodles, still hits, and the dish is delicious. I'm just also pleased with my twirl. I'm just admiring the twirl. Get out of town. It's so good. Make, like, subscribe.